art.
And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, the conclusion to our beautiful, wonderful dawn landscape we've been working on for 3 weeks now. 2 weeks. This is the third week. This is the third week we're working on this painting. And now we're going to have to ground ourselves, because right now what we've got is a wonderful sky and the reflection of that sky into the water. The thing that's going to make our water really vibe, really feel it, is adding something around it, giving us context. Right now we don't have any context, and we've kept our horizon line pretty loose. So we've got to clean up that horizon line this week, and we've got to add a soft, misty horizon line there in the background. Now, something you should know, in landscapes, in general, when something is further away in a landscape, the lighter that thing gets. For example, if you've got layers and layers of mountains in your landscape, the further away the mountains are, the lighter they are, because the air is full of water particles, and those water particles refract the light and they create a mist effect. So we're going to start with what's furthest back and move our way forward. We started with our sky, then we moved forward to our water, and now we're moving forward to our furthest away land. And once again, I'm going to run those colors across the bottom of the canvas. Not the bottom of the canvas, the bottom of the video. On the bottom of the video for you. And I'm going to tell you what they are as well. We've got white. We've got primary yellow. We've got medium magenta, light blue violet, and cobalt blue. So I'm going to be coming up here to the horizon line there. It's right here in this weird fuzzy area that I haven't worried too much about up until now. So I'm going to be getting light blue, the light blue violet color. And I'm going to start with just that. And I'm going to find this horizon line. Now I'm going to be a little bit more precise. I'm still just using a 1-inch flat brush here. There we go. Maybe grab a little magenta. Why not? But I want it to be mostly light blue violet. And right over here, I'm going to start on the right side and draw myself in a horizon line. It's okay if it wibble wobbles, but you want it to be relatively flat, because if it drastically tilts to the left or to the right, it's going to look like all your water is going to pour off one side of the canvas. There we go. Starting off with just the light blue violet, and I got a touch of magenta in there, why not? So I'm starting to find that horizon line. Once you've found it with the light blue violet, without cleaning your brush, dip into the corner, into the cobalt blue, the corner of your brush, into the cobalt blue there. Bring that up here, and I'm going to be tapping my brush onto the top of this light blue line I made to make some far off trees. I'm not worrying too much about how these look, but they're very small. They're very small. You don't really need to worry about it too much. Again, taking cobalt blue just on the corner of my big old brush here. And I'm tapping it. Anytime you feel like your cobalt blue has gotten a little bit dark, a little bit too dark, a little bit out of hand, add some more of that light blue into it. Let them mix, let them mix. There we go. And I'm going to keep my trees that are on the furthest right side towards the edge of the canvas a little bit taller. I'm going to let them get shorter as I move towards the center here. And maybe I'm going to add a little bit of white. Yeah, a little bit of white as you move towards the center. Because what you don't know is we're going to have a little bit of land here, a little bit of land here, and you're going to see a lake appear down here surrounded by land. That's the difference between an ocean and a lake, is that you can see the land around it, right? I don't know what else the difference could be. The size? Is there a specific size that an ocean is? I'm not sure. There we go. What's the size difference between a lake and a pond? These are all very good questions. But most people don't think about. Most people don't ask that question. Using light blue, cobalt blue, and a little bit of white as I move towards the center there. And I'm just going to let it run out because this area is going to get covered up in just a second here. I'm going to cover that bad boy up over there. There we go. And that's just tapping, poking, stabbing, dabbing the brush. So I've switched from my long brush strokes where I was rocking back and forth last week. I've switched from my big circles I was doing the week before and these long blending brush strokes to doing these short little tapping, dabbing brush strokes. That's giving us texture. That's what's giving us texture. And it's going to give us even more texture as we bring ourselves closer. Things are going to get darker as they get closer. So now I'm going to get some blue, cobalt blue to be exact. Load it right up there. And let's see. This one's going to slope its way in here. So I'm going to actually start above the horizon line for now. And poke it, tap it, dab it. And the other thing I'm doing is I'm rolling the handle of the brush in my hand. I'm showing this in multiple angles. Roll the handle, roll the handle, roll the handle. And as you're rolling the handle, you're tapping, you're dabbing, you're poking, you're stabbing to create all kinds of little goofy things happening up there. There we go. This is just cobalt blue. And there we go. I'm going to let it flow its way down and get close to, if not, yeah, just a little bit past the center line. I think I'm heading for right there. There we go. And what I'm working on right now is the top edge of a tree line. These are just fluffy trees far away. Maybe, yeah, why not? Let's get a big tree. Let's get a big tree. Tap them in there. There we go. There's a big tree sticking out the top. And maybe we got another one sticking out over here. There we go. Now we got kind of a mess happening over there. And we got to find the bottom of our mess. And it's going to be right here. You're going to go to the tip of your peninsula. And you're going to pull your way back. And it's mostly flat, but because I want this land to look like it's coming towards me, I'm going to pull back, slant it down just a little bit, and just fill in this whole area. Fill it in. There we go. For now, we're just getting that dark color in there. Just that dark blue. There we go. So you got a fluffy top. You got a fairly smooth bottom. Fluffy top and a smooth bottom. Just like me. There we go. All right. We've talked about it in previous weeks. Green. Who remembers? Blue and yellow. Blue and yellow. So I'm going to get some more of that blue. That's what I was just doing. Get some more cobalt blue. And some of this yellow. Oh yeah, look at that green. It explodes onto the scene. That green explodes onto the scene. There we go. We want to keep all this fairly dark, but I'm going to begin to add some green to the top edge of my trees there. To give it just a little bit of a different vibe happening there, to set it apart. Maybe you choose where a lump or two is. Maybe add a little extra yellow to this area here. And to pop out just a little bit more. Dab it down. The blue is acting as our shadow color currently. And this green is acting as our highlight. So I might leave some stuff blued out in the background. That works really well. And you want some bushes, and then you can turn your brush just horizontally and sloping down towards the water. And tap down. Now I mentioned this, I think in both other episodes. I mentioned this almost every episode. You want to paint with the flow of what you're painting. And the land flows down towards the water. Technically, it flows down under the water, and the water is actually on top of the land. But for our purposes, the land is flowing down towards the water and then disappearing into the water. So as I'm tapping these bushes and these little bits of grass, they're going down towards the water. Then right here, at this area, right by the bank, I want extra yellow. There we go, and maybe even a little bit of white in there. There we go. Now I'm leaning away from any details at the moment because I want this all to be very misty, like a misty morning. This wants to be like a misty, misty morning here. There we go. Maybe that just disappears back up into those bushes. We'll clean up our shoreline in a little bit, but that's pretty much what I'm looking for. There we go. Next, I want it to get even darker. Right over here on this side. So without cleaning out my brush, I just got tons of blue. And this peninsula is going to be slightly closer to us than that one. And it's going to start right here. That's the noise peninsulas make. So don't blame me. Don't blame me. There we go. And then pull on backwards. You end up with another peninsula over there. You can see there that some of my yellow bled in, but I don't care at this point. I want there to be tones of green in my blue over here. Note to self, I'm using a lot of cobalt blue, and I keep having to get more. There we go. I always think I use less paint than I really do. There we go, and you can use any kind of paint, really. Any kind of acrylic paint. You can even use craft paint straight from Walmart and end up with something just as good as this. Of course, there's all kinds of fun, fancy paints you can get. You don't need them. You don't need them to have a good time. There we go. All right, I was just darkening up that shoreline there. So I've got another peninsula right over here. This one I want a more defined tree. So I'm getting that blue and right here, right over top of everything we've worked so hard on. But that is what's going to give your painting depth. You gotta take risks to create depth. There we go. Get brave, get bold. Pop a trunk down there. And then this is just a silly little tree here. I'm holding my brush vertically, up and down. And then I'm rotating the handle of the brush in my hand outwards like a fan as I move down this tree. And and tapping my brush. I'm gonna get pretty fat. This is a fat old boy over here. This is a fat old boy. There he is. There he's coming in. Tap him in there. And as I go down, the fan spreads out. So it starts off pretty vertical, up and down, and then it spreads out as you go downwards. Tap, tap, tap. And dab, 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 tap, 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 dab, dab, dab. There we go. And sometimes you'll see here that you can see a little bit showing through my tree. Now that's because the paint is a little bit transparent. So in order to darken up my tree, I'm gonna have to wait for that to dry and add some more color in there. That's no problem at all. Along the base of my tree, get some of that yellow. Oh yeah. Everything's coming into more focus as we get closer to ourselves. So I'm gonna use plenty of yellow now. Plenty of yellow. Holding my brush horizontally and tapping it in. This is giving us the impression of some grass. Now something that will help you out a ton with grass. You're tapping, you're dabbing, you're poking, you're stabbing. But what you don't want to do is cover up all the blue we put on there, because we put it there for a reason. That's our shadow color. So as you're adding the yellow, don't cover up all of your shadow. Without shadow, there is no form. There we go. Without death, there is no life. That's a little lesson for you. Don't lose all your shadow, or there's no point to it. There's no point to having a highlight if you don't have shadow. And maybe I'll even get a brighter highlight though, because we like highlights. We like highlights. Let's get it even brighter up here. There we go. Poke it on there. There's another thing you can do with grass. If you want a few little bits of long grass, white, yellow, still blue in my brush, you can take your brush up here and maybe I touch and pull up, touch, pull up, touch, pull up, touch, pull up, touch, pull up. As I'm pulling upwards, I'm lifting up off the canvas. This gives you a little bit different grass. Rather than short little mossy grass, this gives you longer grass. There we go. Lift up off the canvas. Get some little fluffers happening there. There we go. Maybe the other thing land has going for it is it's got dirt. And a little color theory lesson for you. We've got white, yellow, magenta, and blue. 2 different blues, but we got blue. And green is the opposite of red. Magenta, it's pretty much red. If we take a little bit of that magenta, a little bit of that green, we mix basically every color that we've got here, dark blue, yellow, and magenta, you're going to end up with a neutral color. And I'm going to use that to create a little bank down here. I wouldn't even call it a gray. It's like a sludge. It's kind of what it looks like, a little bit of a sludgy color. But I like it. I like it. It helps to balance all the brightness that we've got going for us. It's almost like a purplish, grayish. Bring it into the bank. There we go. Just a little bit of something there. Maybe I'll pop it in on this bank just a touch. Just a touch over there as well. There we go. There we go. Now what we've got going on is 2 floating peninsulas, and they're just floating there. We need to now reflect our peninsulas into the water. I'm going to be doing a similar thing to when I reflected the sky into the water, where I personally don't like to repaint everything perfectly into the water. You can do that if you want to. but I like to be more impressionistic about it. So I'm going to come over here, and I've got dark blue, and I'm going to take my brush right here to the bottom of the peninsula and pull down. As I pull down, I lift up off the canvas. Kind of similar to the grass we were just doing. Little blue, touch, and pull down. Touch, and pull down. Now I didn't clean out my brush, so I've still got bits of green and sludge color in there. There we go. And that just starts to give us the impression of a little bit of reflection. Maybe toss in a little purposeful green, a little extra green in there. Yeah, there we go. And maybe even the tiniest bit of white. You can see there, it's just a little bit of white. Ooh. Oh, that's fun. I like that. Just a touch of white. Maybe I'll poke the white into the bank as well. There we go. Then I'm going to do a similar thing over here, taking that dark blue. Touch, pull down, touch, pull down, touch, pull down. Whatever you're reflecting goes down as far as it goes up. So the bigger the thing is, the bigger the reflection. There we go. Now this tree is pretty iconic, if I do say so myself. So I'm going to actually repaint part of the tree into the water. I'm going to bring it down here and then tap a little impression of the tree into the water. Just using blue. Just to get a little bit of the top of the tree there. And then blend it into the reflection that I've already got going on. Just to get a little impression of something happening there. And then, once you've got the impression of something happening there, while your brush is still dirty and while the paint is still wet, turn your brush horizontally and pull some of that paint side to side. Barely touching the canvas. You don't need much paint to do this step. There we go. Pull a little bit of that color side to side. Just a little bit of something there. There we go. Then I want a big old lump. I want a big old lump over here. Blue again. And this is a big boy. This is a big boy. He's coming all the way in here. Shunk. There we go. There we go. Big old lump. Nice and messy. Toss some yellow into the top. Tap it in. Tap it in. And now I want this to be real bright. I'm using tons of yellow. I want this to be the brightest grass in our whole picture. Once again, leave some shadows in there. So maybe I've got the top edge here, nice bright green. Maybe pull it back, leave a little shadow there. Leave a little shadow in between. Maybe I'll get a little white. Brighten this one up even more. Make that shadow even more noticeable. Maybe I'll pull up. Lift up off the canvas. There we go. Maybe I'll toss a little light blue in there too. Why not? Now I'm just playing around here at the end. Making a mess, making a mess. There we go. Up here at the top, might get some more of that white again to get a nice lighter green color. Pull upwards and I'll lift up off the canvas. Kind of fuzz up that top. Maybe get a little dark blue. Mix it in. It's all about contrast with stuff like this. So you want some very dark spots and some very light spots next to each other to give it that texture. That's how we're going to get texture. Touch more dark blue. And that can add, just in case you lose a shadow, you can add one back in just like that. Just touch a shadow back in. There we go. And you end up with yourself a nice little hill over there. Then I'm going to wash out my brush. There's two last things that I want to do here today to finish up our wonderful little dawn painting we had. Two last things. The first thing is I want to darken up this tree before I forget over here. Darken him up, adding that second layer. So what I did is I forgot about him for a little bit. Let him dry out. Then when you lay on that second layer, it covers up. Anytime you got a thin paint that's letting anything show through like that, you just got to give it a second layer once it dries out. Got to wait for it to dry out though. And maybe even, while we're having fun here at the end, a touch of yellow. Give it a little highlight. I just put a little yellow on the corner of my brush there. And tapping a little highlight just onto one side of the tree. Just onto the left side. Once again, don't lose your shadows. Just to add a little shine to the top of a few of those branches. There we go. This is a small little touch there. All right, now for our almost final step here. Almost final step. We're almost done. We're almost done. We just gotta put the sprinkles on the cake. Gotta put the sprinkles on. And the sprinkles are going to be our water ripples. I'm gonna pull my brush through that white paint just like this. Pull it through. And then wipe it off. You don't need much paint. Barely any paint. Pulling it through gives you that nice sharp edge after all that crazy tapping we've been doing. Get a nice sharp edge. Come up here to the edge of your land. There we go. And just get yourself a little water line in there. Get yourself a little water line in there. I even like to add a few little ripples just floating out here. Get yourself a little water line in over here. And then pull away from that edge. Pull away from the edge. Give you some little streaks. And then just sprinkle these little white lines. You can see how little they are. That comes from using very little paint and just skating over the canvas. Barely touch the canvas. Skate right over it. And then maybe if we want to. Now I'm getting crazy. You got barely any paint on your brush? Make some circles right along here. I'm adding some mist. Add some mist. And maybe, well, now we're getting crazy. Add a little pink. Uh-oh. Add a little pink into that. Barely any paint. Tiny little circles. There's just some mist rising off that water there. Oh yeah. It's just like doing a cloud, very little paint. It's just a cloud that's on the land. A land cloud. Maybe we'll add one. A blob of mist. Floating across the water over here. There we go. That's what I would call a spicy step. You don't need to do that. You don't need mist there. But if you're feeling crazy, you can. I think I'll just have it on that side too. I don't think it needs it too much on this side. I might just brighten up my water line over here. Yeah, I don't want that to sparkle. There we go. And who knows what the final step to a painting is. That's right. You've got to sign your painting, otherwise someone's going to sell it. They'll sell it on eBay. You'll get no credit. Make sure you sign that painting. Now, this is not the ideal brush to sign a painting with. You can always bring out a second brush or something like that. I personally say the messier the signature, the more artistic you look, so I'm going to go ahead and use my big brush. I told myself I was going to paint this whole painting with this big old brush. I'm not going to break that rule now. Just have to use all my artistic skill. Nice little signature with this big old brush. There we go, that's good enough. I say the messier the signature, the more artistic you look. And there you have it. 3 weeks and one beautiful painting for you. I hope you all have enjoyed painting this painting with me, and I hope you come back next month to paint another beautiful painting with me. And you all have a happy time painting, and God bless. Art.